On today's podcast, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, what it is, how it affects you, and ways to overcome it. Welcome to Lift Your Future, a podcast that teaches you coping skills through stories, methods, and proven techniques to improve relationships and outcomes in your personal and professional life. I'm Nicole Winkler, a licensed therapist and executive coach. On this podcast, we'll share relatable life experiences designed to help you grow. I will provide easy, practical ways to develop thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to impact your life, both personally and professionally. My goal is simple: to help you lift your future. Welcome back to Lift Your Future. Today, we are going to talk about imposter syndrome. And I'm choosing to talk about this subject because 70% of the population either has suffered from imposter syndrome or will suffer from imposter syndrome at some point in their life and in their career. So with that, I want to talk about emotions and emotions that are in mindset actually as well that are associated with imposter syndrome. So the emotions that we typically hear are feeling inadequate, feeling fake, feeling really lucky, like I got really lucky, but somebody's going to figure this out and my luck is going to run out. And so I've been asked to present about this and talk about this. And a lot of people think that it's just impacts women, but that's actually a myth. It impacts women, definitely, but it also impacts men. And this is people that are usually really high achievers. And so they feel like, okay, I've done this and I've worked so hard, but they don't necessarily contribute their success to internal factors, like what comes from inside of us and our capabilities and our traits and what we bring to the table. It has to be this external. It's somebody else out there. I got this because I know someone, or I got this opportunity because I was really lucky. And I really enjoy working with clients who suffer from imposter syndrome because I like breaking down those belief systems and really deconstructing them and building them back up to be that belief system that's more intrinsic instead of extrinsic. So more internally, the reasons why you are successful are because of who you are, the characteristics that you possess, what your capabilities are, rather than the external factors as to why this opportunity came to you. So imposter syndrome actually was coined in 1978 by two psychologists, and it was imposter phenomenon, and it has turned into imposter syndrome. It was initially studied because of women in the workplace and feeling inadequate or not in the right place, or feeling like they were going to be found out, like they are a fraud and they don't really know what they're doing, even though the work that they demonstrated was that they clearly knew what they were doing and they did a very good job, which is why it became a phenomenon. It is important to note that imposter syndrome is not a diagnosis, so it is not in the DSM-5. It is something that is a syndrome that is being more widely talked about now than it really ever has been in the past. And that's exciting. So there are three defining characteristics with someone who suffers from imposter syndrome. The first one is feeling like they're going to be found out. Somebody is going to know, somebody's going to figure this out. I don't belong here. I don't deserve this. Those are kind of the statements that we hear around that first characteristic. The second characteristic is this is an external factor. This is the reason why I'm successful. It's not because of who I am. It's because of someone else or something else. They saw something in me, promoted me, gave me this opportunity. Even in high school, when you're applying to colleges, some people believe that they don't deserve to be in the college program that they're in. In fact, there is a Stanford professor who at the beginning of every semester, he asks his students, who in here thinks that they're the one person that admissions got wrong, that they let you slide in here, that you're not supposed to be here, that you don't belong at Stanford University. And what he has found time after time is that 2/3 of the students raise their hands. So 2/3 of the students that are at Stanford University think that they're the mistake that admissions made. And that's just, quite frankly, that's not possible. And second of all, that is how people that are high achievers really kind of filter that. There has to be some other reason why I got in here. There's no reason I belong. So the third characteristic trait of imposter syndrome is that other people have inflated your ability and your skill set. So they believe that you're capable of more than you believe that you're capable of. And what they found is that you are extremely capable, but we don't believe that. So internally, we don't believe it. And that's why it's an important topic for us to talk about. So who suffers from imposter syndrome? There are 3 areas that we really look for imposter syndrome in. And one of them is being promoted at work. Somebody that's being promoted and maybe needs a little extra support to get through that because they feel like, oh my gosh, somebody's going to find me out. They promoted me. They thought I did a really good job and I was capable of this job, but I'm really not. When are they going to figure it out? Another area I really look for is when somebody finishes an educational experience. So say that is training in medical school, or training to become an attorney, or training to become even like a plumber, or any kind of specific training set. And then once they get done with the educational piece and the internship piece, then they feel like, oh, am I really able to go out on my own and do this? Do I really know everything I need to know? And so I look for signs of imposter syndrome there. And then the third area that I look for it in is when somebody is getting ready to start a new educational experience. And maybe that is getting a new job being a project manager and having to do the training program for that. Or maybe it is going back to school as an adult. We have a lot of adult educators now, a lot of people entering the educational field once they have had their career for a long time. That's pretty common. But I hear oftentimes, even from students when I teach as an adjunct, I'm old, I'm an adult, I haven't been to school for a really long time. And I say, that's okay. That's absolutely okay. There's no problem with that. They're like, oh, it's just going to take me so long. They probably shouldn't have let me in here. And that's really, what's the facts? They did let you in. What did you have to do to get into school? And now you can continue this educational experience. Okay, so some common behaviors that we see with people suffering from imposter syndrome are really, really hard workers. If I work harder, then somebody is not going to figure out that I don't know what I'm doing. When in fact, you do know what you're doing. You do know what you're doing, and you're a very hard worker. We also see perfectionism. Perfectionism is unattainable. We know that, but we still suffer from it. Some people still suffer from it. So it has to be perfect or I can't turn it in, or I have to work so hard and all these extra hours to make sure that I get it just right, just perfect. Also discounting praise. When somebody tells you that you did a great job and you say, oh, it could have been better. I always coach my clients on saying, thank you. You did a great job on that. Thank you. That's the response. That's the only response. Even though your mind might be telling you, oh, I messed that up, or I could have done something differently. Self-sabotaging, I actually see sometimes with people with imposter syndrome, because they take on so many tasks and they want to achieve and they want to do them all well, but they get burned out and they don't have enough time to complete everything. So I really take a step back. What are you trying to do here? What are you capable of doing here? And then really assessing it from there. If you cannot take on another project, I know you want to, but that doesn't mean that you should be doing that right now. Undermining achievements. So you have these wonderful achievements, you've accomplished so much, but it's never enough. And it's not going to be enough. And this actually ties into a really interesting phenomenon as well, which is called the Arrival Fallacy. And the Arrival Fallacy is, in essence, I'll be happy when I accomplish this, X, Y, or Z. And with the Arrival Fallacy, we see this in medical students, we see this in college students, we see this in high school students, we see it in business. I'll be happy when I get that job or that promotion or that title, or I make this much money, when really we've built this experience up to be so big that when it actually happens, it's fairly anticlimactic. And we're disappointed. We're left feeling pretty disappointed that I thought that everything would be fine once I finally accomplished this big goal that I had. And then also finding a superior mentor and always trying to make them happy. So this is not to say don't find a mentor. Mentors are wonderful. They're amazing. We learn so much from mentors. But this is befriending a mentor and really trying to get their approval because you think that will make you feel like you have finally made it or that you know enough. And the fact is that won't actually work because that's still extrinsic and that's not coming from within with your own capabilities and being proud of yourself for who you are and what you are accomplishing. So there are 5 different types of imposters. One of them is the perfectionist. I have to do everything right. It has to be perfect or it doesn't matter. I can't turn that in. I have to stay up till 3 a.m. working on this, or I can't get the slide exactly right. Those are the sorts of things that we see, which is really, we see a lot of burnout when it comes to perfectionism as well. A lot of burnout. I don't enjoy what I do anymore because it has to be perfect or I can't turn it in or they're going to know that I'm a fraud and that I'm a fake. And I will tell you, among all walks of life, all positions, people make mistakes. That is a human thing. People make mistakes. It doesn't matter if they are the owner, a CFO, a COO, an employee, customer service representative. Everybody's going to make mistakes. It's learning from our mistakes that helps us. Another one is being superwoman or superman. I have to do all things and I have to do them all perfectly, or it doesn't matter and they're going to find out that I'm a fraud. Well, that is simply not possible. We're not able to do that. So, asking for help, saying I don't know the answer to that is really important, especially if we struggle with imposter syndrome. There's also the natural genius. And the natural genius is somebody who things have come easily to them in life for the most part. So when something gets hard, it's like, oh, well, I clearly don't know very much and I'm just not smart enough. I just don't know it. I'm not going to do it. When in reality, working hard to learn something and to know something is extremely rewarding. But this type of an imposter syndrome really brings out that I have it or I don't have it. It's a very all or nothing thinking. And so that's where it becomes dangerous territory. The rugged individual is the fourth one, and that's someone who doesn't believe if they work as a group with other people or as a team, they don't believe that they should get any credit for that. That means that I needed help. If I needed help and I need assistance with something, then I didn't do it on my own. And this is somebody who's very much thrives on doing things on their own. Well, unfortunately, in real life, a lot of us need a team. A team makes us better. They help us. They help us with many different things. They have a drive and ambition, and we collaboratively come up with ideas, and it's wonderful. But somebody who's an imposter, who feels like an imposter and struggles with that syndrome, when they are a rugged individual, they feel like if they didn't accomplish it themselves, then it doesn't matter at all. And then there's the expert. This is somebody who's very well studied, knows a lot, but believes if they don't know everything or the answer to everything, that they're going to be found out to be this fake person, this fraud that shouldn't be in the position that they're in. And the reality is nobody knows everything. So this looks like an individual that says, that's a really great question. I don't think I can present on that because I don't know everything yet. I'm going to go to another training though. And I've said this to people. How many trainings do you need to become an expert? What do you think? And they'll say, I don't know, but there's always trainings out there. And so I ask, what did you learn in the last training that you didn't know already? And a lot of times it's, no, I pretty much knew everything. Okay, so you probably have the skills and the knowledge and are equipped with a lot of information that you could present to someone else at this point. Yeah, but I still don't know everything. And we see this a lot in academia, because in academia, it's very, knowing as much as you possibly can, especially with research, is really important. But the fact is there are studies going on all the time. There's new information and new research and new findings coming out every day across the world. So there's no way to know everything. And so when I talk about this, I want to talk about the belief system also of not feeling good enough. That is really tied into imposter syndrome, that core belief of I'm not good enough or I'm not going to be good enough, and being reinforced by these thoughts of I'm not an expert, I'm not perfect, I have to do everything, and if I drop the ball on anything, then everybody's going to figure out that I really don't have my life together. And the fact of the matter is, you do have your life together. You are probably juggling and balancing many responsibilities, and it's okay to take a step back, take a deep breath, and really assess what it is you need to work on going forward, and where you may feel like an imposter and where you need to work on that and get help for that. So if that belief system is, I don't belong here, I shouldn't be here, then our thoughts filter from that as well. Oh, somebody's going to figure me out, I shouldn't be here, all these things. Well, then we behave as if we shouldn't be in the room and that we don't deserve to be there. And if we're behaving that way, how are we feeling? And so our thoughts and our behaviors and our feelings are all intertwined, but they come from our belief system. So I challenge you to think about this today. If you have suffered from any of those kind of beliefs that I've said for the perfectionist, the rugged individual, the expert, the superwoman or superman, like really assess that with yourself. Is this what I think? Is this what I feel? And then also, what is the truth? What's the story I'm telling myself? And then what is the actual truth to that? All right, so how do we combat imposter syndrome? What are some things I have my clients do? I'm going to share those with you. The first one is a table. I like to call it the fact and fiction table. And then I also add in skills. So for example, the fact, I got the promotion I wanted. Yay! Woo! We're like initially really excited. It's super awesome. And then kind of that fear sets in. Oh my gosh, are they going to know? Is somebody going to figure it out? So that's kind of the fictional story that we tell ourselves. So for an example, I worked with a female client who really struggled with imposter syndrome when she got her promotion. And something that she had said was, they really needed a female to be all-inclusive on the leadership team. So that's probably why they hired me. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. Let's talk more about that. What skills do you think you possess that they saw in you that they promoted you? And she said, well, I work really hard. I show up on time. I have great ideas that I bring to the team. And I like to hold people accountable. If they say that they're going to do something, I'll bring it up again. And I said, well, those sound like leadership skills. That sounds like somebody I'd want on a leadership team. What do you think? And so we really processed that. And at the end of it, she's like, you know what? I think I do have some skills that will be good on this leadership team. I have areas of growth and areas of opportunity for sure. But all right, I might see a couple points as to why they promoted me into this position, which was more of an internal belief system than an external one. And that's what we were trying to get to. Same thing, I worked with an individual who got into graduate school. They were really excited they got into graduate school, but then really felt like, oh, I'm not a graduate student. I'm like, what is a graduate student? Like, first of all, let's define that. What does that even mean? And picking that apart. And then, what are the things that you had to do to be accepted into graduate school? Well, I had to study for the GRE, and I took a pretest, and then I had to take the GRE, and then I had to apply to the program, and I had a group interview, and then I had an individual interview, and I took an MMPI, which is a personality assessment, and then they offered me a place in the program. I said, so do you think that in that any of those skills are skills that you possessed that got you into graduate school and demonstrated that you would be a great graduate student? And so that's kind of where we went with that. The fact, and then the story that you're telling yourself, the fiction, and then the skill set. And you can write that in 3 columns, type it out, write it out, whatever works for you. But that strategy seems to work. And then also a strength-based approach to imposter syndrome is really great too, reminding yourself of your strengths. So what are 5 of your greatest achievements? And I ask clients that. This is your homework. Think about what are your 5 greatest achievements so far? And there's going to be more. And then what are 10 strengths that you would say you possess? And that's a really kind of loaded question. But if you have a hard time, which I find a lot of my clients with imposter syndrome, I shouldn't say a lot, several of my clients with imposter syndrome really struggle with identifying their strengths. So I say, go ask other people that you're close with. Go ask other people what your strengths are. And I bet you'll get to 10 very quickly. And then I want to know what somebody else told you and then what you believe or don't believe about that strength. And that's what we process the next session. And then what are 3 things that you really admire about yourself? What are 3 things you really admire about yourself? That's different than strengths. So that's a homework assignment that I'll have people work on and really try to flush out the belief systems associated with imposter syndrome, what type of imposter they are, and you can be several types. I actually did an assessment with somebody last week, and when I was actually educating them about the 5 different types, they said, well, could I be all of them? I said, yeah, absolutely. You could be all of them. You could have components of all of them. And so then really working through those belief systems and into your thoughts and, working on our beliefs, our thoughts, and then that impacts our feelings and our behaviors from there. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me and look forward to seeing you next week.